Welcome back everyone to another incredible deep dive into the world of unbelievable talent, jaw-dropping performances, and moments so intense they nearly stopped the hearts of the judges. If you love the kind of performances that push the limits of human ability, that make the audience scream, that make the judges jump out of their seats, and that most importantly almost give Simon a heart attack every single season, then you're in exactly the right place. Before we get started, make sure you're settled in, because today we're diving into one of the most shocking, most dangerously unexpected, and most unforgettable performances ever seen on Britain's Got Talent. This is the kind of act that leaves people unable to blink, unable to breathe, and absolutely certain that something is going to go terribly wrong. And as for Simon, well, this is one of those auditions where he came as close as possible to slamming the red buzzer simply because he couldn't handle how close the danger came. Our story begins on a night when the theater was buzzing with energy, excitement, and anticipation. The entire crowd was seated in that perfect moment of silence right before the next act is introduced. The judges were shifting in their seats, adjusting their microphones, and the tension in the air felt almost electric. The host behind stage whispered that something big was coming. Something the judges would not see coming. And something that would leave Simon gripping the edge of the desk so tightly his knuckles would turn white. Onto the stage walked a duo unlike anything the audience expected. They weren't dressed in simple costumes or elegant performance outfits. No, they walked in wearing outfits that immediately suggested danger. Their dark clothing, the straps, the metallic glint of what looked like hooks or blades, and the intense look in their eyes sent shivers through the crowd. You could hear people whispering, trying to predict what this act could possibly be. Was it acrobatics? Was it some kind of extreme stunt? Was it magic? Or was it something no one in the audience was prepared for? As they introduced themselves, their voices were calm, but the confidence they radiated made it clear they knew exactly what they were about to do. When Simon asked what their act involved, they simply replied with a smile, saying they specialized in danger. Real danger. No illusions. No tricks. No safety nets. You could see Simon shift back in his chair immediately, hands raised defensively as if he were already preparing himself for disaster. Amanda gave a nervous laugh, Alicia leaned forward with wide eyes, and Bruno already had both hands on his chest like he was preparing for CPR. The music started low, with an eerie rumble, and the stage lights dimmed until only a spotlight remained on the two performers. The man stepped forward first, raising his arms, revealing a set of long steel blades glinting under the light. The woman stepped behind him holding a flaming torch. Yes, flaming. And when the audience saw fire combined with blades, the screams began. You could hear people gasping, clapping their hands over their mouths. And the judges, they froze. Then the act began. The woman lifted the torch and set the tip of one of the steel blades on fire. The entire metal began glowing as the flames raced across it. The man then balanced the burning blade across his shoulders, and with a slow, controlled motion, began bending backward until the blade was suspended just inches above his face. Simon leaned forward, eyes wide, mouthing the words "no, no, no." Alicia covered her face with both hands, peeking through her fingers. Amanda twisted in her chair, shaking her head. And Bruno began shouting at the stage, begging them to stop even though he knew they wouldn't. The man kept bending further and further, and the entire audience held its breath. The flames were inches from his skin. One wrong move, one slip, one tremor in his muscles, and the blade would fall directly onto him. Then, with a movement so sudden the audience screamed, he straightened rapidly and flipped the burning blade into the air. It spun like a ring of fire above him before landing perfectly in his hands. The crowd erupted into a mixture of applause and terrified shrieks. Simon slammed both hands onto the desk and let out a breath he didn't even realize he was holding. But that was only the beginning. The duo then moved to the center of the stage where a tall structure was revealed. It looked like a steel tower with hooks hanging from the top and a platform at the bottom. The woman climbed the structure first, hooking what appeared to be straps around her wrists. The man stayed below, his arms outstretched. As the music intensified, she suddenly threw herself off the edge of the tower, swinging down at full speed. The crowd screamed. The judges jumped. Even the camera crew jolted. She swung so low that her hair skimmed the stage floor, but her momentum carried her back up. She spun, twisted, and then let go entirely. For a split second, she was suspended in the air with nothing supporting her. The audience gasped. Simon's jaw dropped. And right before she collided with the ground, the man caught her midair, spinning with her weight and landing on one knee like a superhero. The applause was instant and deafening, but Simon remained frozen, staring with disbelief. He shook his head slowly, muttering something that the microphone didn't fully catch but sounded suspiciously like "I'm going to need a doctor after this." The next part of the performance involved something even more extreme. The man lifted a set of razor-sharp spears, positioning them around a spinning wheel. The woman climbed onto the wheel, strapping herself onto it tightly. The audience began murmuring, knowing exactly what was coming. The spinning wheel began to rotate. Slowly at first, then faster, and faster, until she was spinning like a human vortex. The man stood several feet away, each spear glinting ominously under the stage lights. If Simon was worried before, now he was terrified. His hand hovered over the buzzer, not because he wanted to buzz them, but because he wasn't sure he could handle watching. Bruno shouted no every few seconds. Amanda yelled "Oh my God" repeatedly. Alicia waved her arms, trying to signal them to be careful. But the performance continued. The man raised the first spear and threw it forward. The audience screamed. The spear hit the spinning wheel, lodging itself between her arm and torso by a fraction of an inch. The woman didn't flinch. The wheel kept spinning, faster and faster. Simon screamed stop, but no one could hear him through the noise of the crowd. The second spear was thrown. Then the third. Each one landed impossibly close. And then came the moment that nearly stopped Simon's heart entirely. The man lifted the final spear, not only the longest but also the sharpest. He aimed carefully. The wheel spun at full speed. The judges leaned forward, unable to look away. The audience fell completely silent. For a moment, time seemed to slow. He threw the spear. A sharp whistle cut the air as the weapon shot forward. It struck the wheel with a loud metallic sound, landing directly between her legs, missing her body by less than an inch. The entire audience exploded into screams. Simon pushed his chair back so quickly it nearly toppled. His expression looked like someone had just pulled a prank on him involving live electricity. Alicia stood up and clapped a hand over her mouth. Amanda screamed so loudly. The microphone cracked. Bruno was half standing, half falling, hands clutching his head. The wheel slowed, and the woman opened her eyes, smiling calmly as if she'd just finished a gentle dance routine. The man unstrapped her, lifted her gracefully, and placed her on her feet. The crowd gave a standing ovation so strong it shook the entire theater. Simon took several seconds to gather himself. He wiped his forehead, leaned into the microphone, and said, "You nearly killed me. I think my heart just stopped. I've never been more scared in my entire life watching this show." Amanda added that her soul had temporarily left her body. Alicia said she needed a drink